Hello, this is Pastor Rick, and I want to welcome you to the Sunday Forum on this Sunday, May the 21st, where we're going to say goodbye once again to Pastor Steve. First of all, welcome to the Sunday Forum.
I like that, Rick. Once again, we're going to say goodbye. There's been many so far.
But this is going to be one of the final goodbyes.
Yeah.
And so we just want to reflect on how things are going for you, how your feelings now that it's just a couple of weeks away.
Yeah, well, I'll be a couple days away from my birthday as well. I turned 70 on the 24th of May. But yeah, it's been since 1999, and it was a long trip from Ogden, Utah to Naples, Florida that year, and a lot of good memories, a lot of good projects that we've been a part of, and a wonderful congregation.
You mentioned this many times in sermons, but what a different culture. Mm-hmm. What a different change from Utah to Naples, Florida.
You know, there were two places that I never thought I'd live. One was Utah and one was Florida. Now, I could probably go to the other states too, but it was really a stretch for an Iowa kid to end up being a Lutheran pastor in Utah and then going all the way from Utah to the southeast to Florida. It was quite dramatic for me.
You know, the congregation got to say goodbye to you in a very special way at your retirement party down at the yacht club. Maybe some reflections on that day, because it was really special. I know it was special for you, but it was special for all of us here at Emmanuel.
Well, I didn't go to many yacht clubs growing up, Rick, so being a small town kid in a little lake town, but what I remember about being there that night, there were over 250 people there, and I got a chance to go from table to table to table and to visit with everyone, and that was probably the most special part of that evening for me, was to see people face to face and be able to express my personal thanks.
There was just a wonderful atmosphere.
Yeah, there was.
And people were dressed up and ready, first of all enjoying each other, but then being able to enjoy you, to celebrate you. It was wonderful. The other thing that people have noticed, and it's been mentioned in Worship Matters on Monday in particular, but everyone's noticed that you've processed some of your retirement through your sermons. You often start a sermon now by saying, I was cleaning out my office and I found, whatever. Say something about how you've used sermons and what's that meant to you.
Well, first of all, I'd like, if anyone wants to come and help me clean my office, that would be great. No, I think on Easter Sunday, I had kind of a bad voice too. I was a little bit out of voice. I kind of swallowed the microphone. But the thing I wanted to do was to tell the congregation how grateful I am for the way that they have ministered to me as much as I've had an opportunity to minister to them. I think that should be something well known, that pastors need to be ministered to as well.
Absolutely.
And so that was a privilege. And then I think it was just a week or so ago, I gave on whatever Sunday it was, I talked about this sure why not. It was interesting to me because a lot of the things that we have done in this place were visions and dreams that had to be implemented. And in order for that to happen, we all have to kind of catch that vision together and say, sure, why not? Let's move forward in a bold way. So I talked about how the book of Acts, Rick, is filled with statements of bold ministry by the apostles. So that was a chance to me to say some of that.
It's a good reminder that you're retiring, but not the vision, not your vision, which has become our vision, and there we march forward. Well, what we thought we'd do now, if you're open to it, we want to go over into your office because we know you have some very special pictures there and photos and memorabilia that say a lot about how you understand your ministry here at Emmanuel.
Yeah, it's kind of a storage place for many memories, so let's go over.
Okay, let's go over right now. Pastor Steve, we're now in your office, and you've got on your table here some really interesting memorabilia. Tell us about what you have and what it means.
Well, I've been sorting out some things. I found a picture, Rick. This is when I was first ordained, I guess. I was 27 years old, I believe, something like that. Maybe a little older. But anyway, this was in Ogden, Utah at Ascension Lutheran Church. Wow. And I haven't changed a bit
That's not
since
a bit.
then. Not at all. I mentioned my father, my great-grandfather. This was his Bible. He was a pastor in our church in Iowa. I never met him because he started in 1886 and died in 1936. But anyway, this was his Bible, and it's all in Norwegian. And because I went into seminary, got all the family heirlooms, including my great-grandfather's Bible, his communion kit when he went on horseback throughout Iowa for his services. I've even got all of these day timers. This one's from 1899. And they gave me all of this, including a chair that we'll show you. So I've got some family
What
history.
people don't know, we all used to get those day planners from Augsburg until just very recently where computers have taken over.
Yeah, well, when the family found out I was going to go in the ministry, they gave me all the family relics. Hey, I never showed you this, but this was written up at Luther Seminary. It was an article they wrote on me called The Prodigal Pastor.
Oh.
You know why I was prodigal? Because I remember I told you I started seminary and then I quit seminary,
right.
And I came back 5 years later after working in radio and TV. So I found this the other day, The Prodigal Pastor, and I looked like I weighed a little more and had more hair back then.
Did they kill the fatted calf when you came back?
Yeah. Well, no, but it was a celebration nonetheless. Talking about celebrations, this was given to me by the quilting ladies. Now, what would you think? A quilt with motorcycles on it.
Wow.
I got a motorcycle here, but I started riding motorcycle in 2010 and had a nice trip over in Ireland. But they gave me this. So there's motorcycles on one side, and on the other side, there are musical notes. So the fact that, motorcycles and music is kind of a big thing for me in my retirement.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful.
That's about it. I've just got all kinds of relics from the congregation. And this has been, as I said a moment ago, a place that has been really wonderful for me to come.
I can see you've got some very important photos on your piano. Let's move over and take a look at those right now.
Okay.
Okay, Steve, we're at this very special spot in your office with your piano with all these great photos.
Right.
Tell us about them.
Well, the piano, my mother taught me to play the piano when I was a young boy, so the piano is a nice memory of my mother. This is actually my mother right here. She was a nurse in World War II. She was a church organist for 70 years, and she's a beautiful woman. This is my dad in his younger days. He was a Marine and came out of the Marines and actually wanted to be a doctor, but ended up going into the funeral business, a mortician. Picture of my great-grandfather up here. That is from 1886. He started the church in my hometown. Was there for 50 years.
Was that the Bible we just
saw? Same Bible, yeah. That's the photograph of Pastor Wigdahl, along with his 40th anniversary at the church in Ruthven. Picture my mother, and after I lost my dad, that's my mother and the remaining siblings. There would be Janet, Joanne, Jim, and John. This is a picture of my dad in the hardware store, because eventually he went into the hardware business. That cash register, by the way, is from 1919, and I have it in my house. These are my boys. This is one of the pictures of Matthew is out in Salt Lake City, and that's little Heidi when she was born. This is my other son, Blake, and his wife, Rachel. This is a camping trip I took with all the boys. Now, Luke is in there. I have another picture of Luke when we were in Germany at the Augustinian cloister. So Maria, me and Maria. Maria and I it's been 10 years since we've been married, and Maria, of course, was in El Salvador for 25 years.
Wonderful. So every day you work, these are the pictures that are always that you're looking at each and every day.
This is my home away from home in Park.
Now we've got one last special stop in your office. Let's move over to the bishop's chair.
The bishop's chair, okay.
So now, Pastor Steve, you're sitting in I call it the bishop's chair. Of course, it's not a bishop's chair. Right. But tell us the story of this chair and why is it in your office?
Well, this was my great-grandfather's chair. And this chair actually was in the church in the late 1800s. It's about 150 years old. And of course, what I would do sometimes, truthfully, come in here and sit before I preached on Sunday mornings. I would have my prayers here and ask that, this chair would be a reminder of, I guess, all the witnesses that have gone before us. So
it's quite a legacy.
Yes, it is. It is.
And I know that not only means a lot to you, but there's a certain sense of responsibility, I think, of passing on the baton, both here at Emmanuel, but also in the family as far as ministry is concerned.
Rick, one of the things I promised to do with Maria was to pick up this type of baton, which is a golf club. I really regret in many ways that I never went golfing with you and Jim and Jose, and I don't know if I really knew it. I didn't really have a swing, so I said, sure, why not? So Maria, I'll try to golf with you as well.
Okay, you've heard it again. You heard it in church 2 weeks ago in the sermon. You've heard it now in the Sunday Forum. It's out there. We've all heard it. We expect to hear
be a man of peace on the golf course. I don't want to hurt anybody.
There you go.
But really, Rick, thank you so much for the time that we've had here today, and the congregation. I look forward to this coming Sunday. Again, it's been a long goodbye, but it has been a blessed time in my life, and I always will remember the members of this congregation and the ministry we've shared together. Thanks so much.
Oh, Steve, that was marvelous. Being in your office, seeing all those photos from your family and, from your friends and from Emmanuel and some memorabilia. It was great to see that. But now, any final reflections that you have here at this very special moment in the life of the congregation?
Well, the office has been a very important place for me. I remember my dad had an office, and as a kid, I'd go down to his office, and he had all of his treasures there. But I had a lot of things in the office that you and I went through in terms of my memories. I think the other thing would be that I have to say it's been kind of a long goodbye, Rick.
Okay.
I mentioned that a few times because I announced, I think it was back in October of 2021, that we talked about me moving out of the ministry here. And I couldn't help but think of that old country western song. It's called The Long Goodbye by Brooks and Dunn. So I've really enjoyed every moment along the way. And emotionally, it's been quite a ride to have that time here at Emmanuel. But again, my gratitude runs so deep, I'll never be able to express it more than saying Emmanuel Lutheran will always reside in my heart.
If I had thought about this ahead of time, you could have brought your guitar and played that. The Long Goodbye.
Well, then I would have cried, so we don't need that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Normally, at the end of every Sunday Forum, as you know, I would give some final thoughts, and here, final thoughts about Pastor Steve. But on this taping, we're going to leave that final thought to someone else. And so we now want to hear from your son, Luke.
Hi, my name is Luke Wigdahl, and this is a letter I wrote to my father and Emmanuel Lutheran in reflecting upon my experience as his son and growing up in Naples and with the church. From the hometown of Donnie and Marie Osmond in Ogden, Utah to Naples, Florida, I feel very fortunate to have grown up here during my formative years as a child. I'm reminded of a plaque that sat at the front of President John F. Kennedy's desk. It read, "Oh God, the sea is so great and my boat is so small." My father and I know something about being on a small boat in a great sea. When we moved to Naples, we decided to buy a small fishing boat so we could navigate the backwaters in the Gulf. We were extremely diligent in our preparation efforts before embarking on this boat. We made sure to follow all laws and regulations that would ensure our compliance. The boat had all the necessary life vests, air horn, GPS, weather radio, first aid kit, maps, sunscreen, or anything else essential to stay safe on the water. Out of nowhere comes the low clouds and the squalls of driving rain. We hang on and push full throttle back to the dock where we launched the boat, planning on taking more precautions next time. Such is the case with life. We plan, make preparations, set our course destination, and sail off. The low clouds and squalls come in the form of life's little or large disruptions, unexpected, unpredictable difficulties that we could never have imagined. My father and I have been through these storms, as I expect all of you have. A Japanese philosopher once said, "The darker the night, the brighter and closer will be your dawn." It can be one of life's great mysteries that we must go through such darkness in order to find the light. I never expected to leave Emmanuel and go off to college, only to enter into a period of addiction to alcohol, living in hopelessness and despair, to an illness that kept me entangled in its cycle of self-destruction. It was hard for me to understand the words of Paul, "It is when I am weak that I am strong." How is my power at its best in weakness? I have found that the starting point for me, and in fact the continuing point, is not any kind of worthiness at all, but in fact unworthiness. Jesus affirms this with the drunkards, the prostitutes, and the tax collectors. My own conflicts, difficulties, or moral failures have served a purpose, as difficult as it is to believe. They have acted as a mirror to defeat any grand ideas about myself. They have brought me into less of a reliance on myself and into a greater awareness of participation with others wounded like me. My father and I are a lot alike. It may be the Scandinavian in us, but I believe he may be thinking the same thing I would be at this point in his ministry. I could have done more. I should have done some things differently. I believe my father demonstrated his power best in his weakness. He always told me that when he got on the pulpit on Sunday, he was preaching to himself. I believe my father spoke after letting the word saturate his heart, mind, and soul. He was never afraid to articulate his own imperfection and shortcomings. I believe he wrestled like Job and thinking, Lord, I am unworthy. How can I reply to you? My dad helped build a bridge that connected the word into our own lives in the present. This message was not meant to be hidden in context of times past, but alive for us all to experience today. I saw my father weep on the pulpit, laugh, sing, and even scream and shout. I may be biased, but I believe my father preached in a way that could awaken emotions, stimulate the mind, and invigorate the soul. Rather than attempting to perform a message that sounded nice, he would hold up a mirror to himself and let flow a message that spoke to him, as I believe it did for us as well. Dad, your message, which was spoken to me as a little child, has continued to permeate and fill me throughout my life. Through rough and calm seas, your voice has endured in my life, as I know it has in the life of your parishioners, family, and friends. To Emmanuel Lutheran Church, I want to express my most sincere gratitude for your presence in my life. I have felt God's presence at Emmanuel as well as in the community of Naples. Thank you for not only allowing me to be a part of this Christ-centered community, but for your generosity and love. It seems fitting to be a part of Emmanuel, or God with us. For though I have felt God's presence when alone, a more tangible and healing presence was felt by me when in relation to each other at Emmanuel. My dad and I wear the same cross ring today. It is inscribed with Luther's hymn, Ein Festerberg, or A Mighty Fortress. This ring reminds us not only of our bond as father and son, but that God's word is our defense. Let his word dwell in us richly as we navigate the seas of life. Let us be each other's life vests, GPS, maps, as we make our preparations and set course into the community and lives of each other, realizing and cherishing that God is with us. Thank you, Emmanuel Lutheran Church, for being a part of my life. My father has not only been a great inspiration to me, but I hope to you as well. Feel free to share that with him as he makes his departure. I will be sure to remind him of his influence on me, hopefully while attending a ball game or two. Thank you.
Wow, Steve, that was a powerful letter we just heard from Luke. You've just seen it for the first time. I know it was quite emotional for you, but any initial reflections?
Well, you know that I put the handkerchief back in my pocket because it was very emotional for me. I think what Luke talks about is that for those of us that are in ministry, our families are just like everybody else's. We have times when we have, maybe marriage issues, we have addiction issues, as Luke talked about. Haven't always seen my boys as much because of the distance in Utah, so I want to greet Blake and Matt and their families, and of course, I've got a stepson, Kevin, and Luke, of course. So I don't know what to say other than Luke put it in words that make me think that he should be the preacher rather than me right now.
You know, he ties it with Luther's Festerborg. You talked about the Germany trip, but also quoting Paul, where he's discovering that mystery that our strength in the Lord is often revealed in our weaknesses. It was a beautiful insight, I thought, and very touching, not just I know for you, but for all of us here at Emmanuel.
And here's the ring, Luke, that we wear together. It says, Ein Festerborg, a mighty fortress. So, Psalm 46.
Psalm 46.
Thanks, son. Thank you.
And so now, we want to close our Sunday forum by inviting you to meet us after the worship service. The worship service will be at 10 o'clock on Sunday, and afterwards we'll gather around and be able to express again our gratitude to Pastor Steve and his ministry. Thanks for joining us on the Sunday forum.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye now.
You know, I learned a song from a little girl at a church in Minneapolis, and I used to sing this in church. King Jesus is all, King Jesus is all, my all and all, my all and all, and I know he'll answer me when I call, walking by my side, I'm satisfied, King Jesus is all, my all and all. At least that's the refrain.